Hello Hornby fans and welcome to another episode of Signal Box. Now July has marked a huge birthday month for us here at Hornby, celebrating our 100 years with a full social media takeover. Competitions, exclusive content and sharing your memories and your running of centenary layouts have all been a part of our social media takeover. And that's where we come in, because we're having a bumper episode of Signal Box as we look at some of the new centenary products, and of course we get a chance to sit down with the birthday boy himself, Mr. Simon Kohler. So without further ado, let's jump right in and see what's coming up in this month's episode. I unbox the Hornby Dublo Sir Nigel Gresley train set. Simon Kohler answers some of your questions. We get a closer look at the impressive Duchess of Atholl. We announce the winners of our Terrier Competition, and we've picked some of our favourite images sent in by you from home. I'm Mike, we're Hornby, and welcome to a bumper episode of Signal Box. Many of the models from our centenary range have been hitting people's doorsteps, and I got my hands on a very special Hornby Dublo train set to unbox. So here in front of me I have the Hornby Dublo train set, including the Sir Nigel Gresley locomotive and tender. As you can see, first off the bat, much like the Rovex set, what we've tried to do is recreate the original packaging as best we can. So you can see obviously Sir Nigel Gresley taking pride and place there on the front, and this little chap here, which a lot of you may remember from the original packaging, the perfect miniature railway. We've got the Hornby Centenary Year logo there, and it is limited edition, so much like the Rovex set, we just wanted to make it a little bit more special and a little bit different. So obviously let's get it unboxed and let's see what's inside. So first thing you'll notice, again, just like the Rovex set, on the inside of the box we just have a little bit of history about this particular model. Obviously in the late 1930s houses were getting smaller, and with Hornby creating tin plates that were quite large, people wanted something a little bit smaller that they could run around in their house. That's where Hornby Dublo came in, a smaller, more compact train set that people could just use at home on their carpets, on their in their front rooms or the bedrooms. Hence the tagline, the perfect miniature railway. So there you are, you get another graphic inside just like the front of the box, and some more history there for you to read all about Hornby Dublo and the Sir Nigel Gresley train set. Obviously this isn't an exact replica, but it's the best that we could create, considering the difference in manufacturing and detail, etc. We've come a long way since the 1930s, so of course it's going to be a tiny bit different. So let's pop that to the side. Inside the box, obviously we have our instructions, always helpful. You get your limited edition certificate just to show that it's authenticity. This one is 000, because it's 0000, 4 zeros, just to show that you're getting something very special here. So inside the box we have our railer to help us get our locomotive on the track. We obviously have our Hornby controller. We have power, we always need that. We have some spare couplings as well. We also have our track, of course. And finally we have our main attraction, the locomotive and coaches. So these are obviously teak coaches. We've got our third and first class, 58700. And let's take that out and have a little look. There she is. So the teak finish is probably one of the most impressive things about these coaches, and also the detail inside the cabin. So you can just see inside the coach there. So I'll get a closer look of that so you can have a little look at that. We've got our third class teak coach. Pop that one out there. And you can really see the difference in scale from the tin plate, the original tin plate that Hornby released. Again, teak finish, beautiful teak finish there. This is number 1434. Put that in front so you can get another closer look on that. And then finally, of course, the main attraction, Sir Nigel Gresley. I'll get that one out for you as well so you can have a little look at that. Numbered 4498. I'm sure there's, for you at home, a special technique to get these out of the box. Of course, you don't want to damage anything. We've got a little bit of foam in there just to make sure everything stays perfectly intact for you. And again, as always with, we say it time and time again, one of our biggest goals is to ensure that we give you the best quality product with the most detail. And as I said, since the 1930s, we've come on a long way in how we manufacture our models, and this is a perfect example. If anyone does have their original Hornby Dublo set at home, you can see just how more detailed these locomotives has become over the last 80, 90 to 100 years. So there you are, Sir Nigel Gresley nameplate 4498 LNER in a beautiful blue livery. And of course, all of this comes packaged in our cardboard casing, which is eco-friendly. Single-use plastic is, of course, not a good friend to the environment. So we try and package everything now in our cardboard boxes. And underneath our cardboard box, hidden away, is a track mat, which obviously many of you will know from our other sets. So you get a nice track mat. It's also got some details about building your world there. So you also get that, so you can just lay that down, get your track laid out and start running. It's Sir Nigel Gresley, which is exactly what I'm going to do for you now. That he is celebrating a milestone birthday the same year that Hornby celebrates its milestone 100th year. So we asked you for some questions, and we sat down with Simon Kohler, Mr. Hornby himself, and directed those questions straight at him. Take it away, Simon.
Well, I can tell you now the 110 toolings were saved. They weren't thrown out. They were already in the Far East because we'd already actually made 110 some years ago. I'm trying to remember how many years ago. So I never say never. The tools are there, and we can always run them again. But you have to appreciate that those tools now, they go back to the 80s. So I mean, you're talking roughly 40 years old. So I suppose if they did come back, it would probably be railroad rather than the main range. Well, I mean, that's almost a program on its own, to be honest. In short, Thomas the Tank Engine hit the TV screens, ITV, in 1984. And those of you who are old enough will remember that was the year of the miners' strike and all the rest of it. And we were obviously very interested because, I mean, it was a massive uptake straight away, the enthusiasm. We received numerous phone calls from people, are you doing it, are you doing it? We did, and I did, approach Britt Allcroft, who was producing it with her husband. And we did enter into an agreement. There was some confusion and that's probably a gentle word, or words, some confusion over the face of Thomas. In those days, you didn't scan so much, and it was sculpted. And I think we had a couple of bad sculpts, and the powers that be then decided, oh, it'd be all right. Didn't really seek approval, and went all the way into production. And it was totally the wrong face, and Britt Allcroft was not happy at all. And to be honest, we did nearly lose the license, and that was really when I was asked by Britt Allcroft, and I always took it as an honour that, you know, I'd be the only person to look after it, and so on, because obviously she did trust me, and you know, I had a brilliant association with her. Then the business went to Ghislaine, etc., and we had a really good association. But as with all these things, I mean, we had the range for the best part of 30 odd years. Oh, it's horrendously popular. I mean, we had clockwork sets. We had clockwork Thomas sets with Annie and Clarabelle, both on metal track, on plastic track. Well, I think we had them with I think we had them with wagons, but I might be wrong there. But we had Percy, plastic track, metal track. We had electric train sets where we'd got the LBSC E2, which we modified to look more like Thomas. Yeah, we had that, Davies, Diesel, Gordon, James, and Thomas and Percy. So we had those sets in the range, and yeah, it was brilliant. Then we added more to it, but we ended up with a little bit of conflict, because the Reverend Audrey had actually used a lot of Hornby models, etc., and converted them himself, whereas those on the screen were subtly different in many ways. So there were occasions, a little bit like Percy, where we had to retool the body and so on. But yeah, it's a terrific range, lots of fond memories. But there were a few ups and downs, which maybe at a later date I'll give you the full story. Yeah, well, it's always good to hear from Laurie. Yeah, I mean, technology will play an increasing part in Hornby's development, as it does in all our lives, etc. So, yeah, quite right with the HM6000. We're using the iPhone or similar smartphones to control trains. And I've always said, if I can be in one side of the world controlling the thermostat in my house, you know, that's just the world's your oyster then, really. It's just your imagination. What do you want to do today? So yeah, we will always be there. Hornby's always been involved in progression. If you look at 01, etc., you know, we were really ahead of the game back in the very early, well, the late 70s and 80s. Well, the Saint we did was a cut and shunt of a hall, the old hall we used to have, the old Albert Hall. Again, never say never. It does keep cropping up, and who's to say one day, yeah, we might do. I've got, you know, the GWR locos have a strong following, and you could argue that is one that is missing out of our stable, if you like. Well, no, the giraffe car was part of the early 50s, 60s range of that Triang produced, along with other things. And they actually even used it in their battle space. But instead of being a giraffe, it was a sniper. And basically what you had was a car with a giraffe's head sticking out of the roof. And as it came to an obstruction on the track, the head went down, went through, and then popped up again. Sadly, that tooling has been lost, has been destroyed. Would we ever make it again? You know, there are a couple of things I'd love to make. That might be one of them, but there are others in front. But thanks, Lynn. No, yeah, a lot of fun. In fact, I do actually have one of those myself, stashed away. Yeah, I can think of probably two where we one of them we'd finished the tooling. Sorry, we'd finished the drawing, and we're just about to produce the tooling. And our friends in Leicester, and I generally do mean that. I've got a lot of respect for David Harhouse, etc. Our bagman. They announced it. I'm just trying to think. It must have been 2014. I think it was 2014, and yeah, we had to pan it. So several months of research and drawing time gone down the pan. There was another one which wasn't going to be produced by Batman, but somebody else, which I really wanted to do. I had wanted to do for years, and had all the information, had all the drawings ready to start. And yeah, it was announced. So again, that one had to be put to one side. No, you're not. The whole thing is, people do say, why don't you talk to Batman? Why don't you talk to Dapple, etc. And then share your ideas so we don't have this conflict. Well, legally you can't. And if you do collude like that, there are incredibly heavy fines. And so, no, we don't. That doesn't stop us talking to each other and all the rest of it, but we very rarely talk about product. It's more likely to do with families and so on. Well, you know, it goes under the same, you know, sounds like the usual chant I give out, which I never say never, and I never really comment what we will or what we won't do. It's always watch this space. I always like to think we focus, we want people to focus on what we're producing this year. Next year is another year, and we can talk about that. But you know, what happens in the future, we do, you know, we always have lots of ideas and plans. And well, there is that, but of course, I've learnt over the years that you can say something in all honesty, and the next thing you know, it's not going to happen. And people say, well, what has happened to it? Mm-hmm. And that happened to me very early on in my career here, where we virtually announced a loco, and for financial reasons it was dropped. So, as I say, that's one of the reasons I never really talk about what the future holds. That's a good question. What would I say? I would say probably what I live by in some respects is, you know, do the simple things best, and everything else really will follow. And keep it simple, stupid, kiss. That's that. You know, I'm not clever, and I think if people look around, they'll realise there aren't that many clever people. I mean, genuinely clever people in the world. So don't try and be clever. Don't try and be something you're not. Just be yourself and keep it simple. And that's what I do. You know, it's probably why I was called Simon. The short answer is no. And, you know, there have been locos, which I've really wanted to do. And we, you know, one of them was the W1, which we're doing this year, which I've always found that a really fascinating loco and the history behind it. I think the P2s was good, and we're doing the sort of the part 2 of the P2s, if you like. And also one we're doing, in fact there's 2 we're doing this year. One is the APT, and the other is the Class 91. The APT, because I've always felt it was never a finished story, and what we're doing is now the complete book, if you wish. And the other one is the Class 91, where that was one of the locos that we introduced around about the time that Lima were introducing their modern image locos, and we're taking, we're showing up how old, if you like, or less detailed in those days, that the Hornby ones were. And I wanted the 91 to be just as good as what Lima could produce. And I couldn't make it clear, but desperately disappointed that in principle what we got was basically a 1960s designed type loco instead of being 1980s, 90s. So yeah, putting things right, really. Yeah, good question. Always looking for realism. As most people know, we have done and produced smoke generators. The last one was a little cylinder with an element in, and as the loco ran, the element heated up, and the liquid inside, which happened to be baby oil, evaporated and came out as smoke, or burnt rather than came out as smoke. The problem we found fairly early on is when you've got DCC, you've got power in the track, that element continues to burn, and once or glow, and once that oil's gone, then the chamber heats up. The chamber not only heats up, but the body heats up, and you end up with a very distorted loco body. So it's always finding something that is safer, reasonably low cost to include in the loco, and then we've got to find space in the loco, because locos now with motors inside the loco, fairly tight, because you've got weight, have to have weight in there, so your space is getting less. So it has been done, and I've seen it. I think the units they use are reasonably expensive. So to make that a commercial thing may just make it prohibitive. I have seen one of our rockets with a sound generator in and a smoke generator, and yeah, look impressive. Does add quite a bit to the cost of the loco. I think pastimes. Now it doesn't matter whether it's scale electric, airfix, Hornby, or even jigsaws. I mean, jigsaws sales have gone through the roof. But it's helping people get out of watching. I mean, there is only so much daytime TV you can watch, and I think it's helped people really to look further afield, talk to each other, sharing pastimes, and we've tried to encourage that with what we've been doing on social media, because the world is different from what it used to be, and people keep looking to social media, and really, rather than us banging the drum buy a product, we've been trying to help and contribute to people's well-being with offering suggestions of what they can do. I mean, we kicked Australia with Kids Corner, which wasn't selling anything. It was just saying, here's items to keep the children amused. Here's word search rather, and drawings, etc., and running competitions to keep people amused and happy, and take a bit of pressure off the parents, really. But yeah, it's been an interesting time and continues to be interesting. Well, it's not even, I don't even have to look back, because I can remember the time. I entered Hammett Morgan the same year that 01 was launched, and what I had to go up against it was a really good a controller called the HM3000, which was superb, wonderful, but it did only control one loco. So I had to sell that to retailers who would say, oh no, that's all finished. No, you don't need any of that. And you know, my sales pitch had to change to try and convince them that really with 0-1, until you buy 2 decoders or chips we used to call them, it still can only control 1 loco. So there's not a lot of difference. But you have to remember that at that time, Hammett and Morgan and Hornby were joined. You know, Hornby owned Hammett and Morgan. They bought, it wasn't part of DCM as such, that Hornby bought Hammett and Morgan, or H&M. And so they were working together, and the feel and the belief was, as things evolved, was that Hammett and Morgan would probably be more the hobby side of the model railway business. So they were looking towards hobby, whereas Hornby would remain more of the toy train set side of life, which is one reason why I've got in my drawers some die-cast models that were produced and were going to be sold under the H&M brand, which never actually happened for one reason or another. But the whole point is 0-1 came out. 0-1 had some limitations, and the HM5000 was the guts. Basically, the guts was a 0-1, but with a few more bells and whistles. So it was a twin controller. It had a larger transformer, etc. So and worked really well. And you know, we did pretty good numbers on that, actually. But it was sold as I say, more of a high-end item. Well, it was quite a bit more expensive from memory. Well, I think you've got to temper that with, you know, how inflation is right the way. You know, go back to 1950 and see what you got for your money then compared to what you get for the same amount or the equivalent in value as you get now. And I think you'll find that you're getting better value with your models. You've also got to remember that, you know, go back to the 70s and 80s, models and the modelling demands are totally different really from what they are now. And people, and we've proven this, people want more and more detail. And if you can ask people, okay, what are you after? What do you want from a model or whatever? You will find that price isn't number one. In fact, it'll probably end up being number 3 or number 4 on the list. They want the quality, they want the detail, they want it to run. You know, they want it to be smooth running, etc. And then price. And we proved, and at the time, I probably nearly got fired for it, was when they were looking at taking detail out, and I personally did come up with Design Clever, which is something that I wished I hadn't done, but I had to do something, but I had to toe the company line. We took the detail away, or a lot of the detail, and it had disastrous effects on selling the product. You know, that's not what people wanted. They wanted the detail, and you get it right and people will pay for it. The balance is, you know, and this is something, you know, when I look at prices and looking at a new item, etc., you know, we have to make a profit on something like that because we have to reinvest. But there's a balance really, and I watched that very, very carefully. I do remember when the locos broke the £100 barrier, and I was very, very resistant to that. But boy, you know, it broke it, but it didn't really have a strong effect. I sympathise with people because, you know, costs, can argue, are increasing more than people's wages, but you can't walk away from it. If you want a model like that, then there's a lot of work goes into that, a lot of work, and it obviously has a price. Just one other thing. Mars bars used to be sixpence. You know, a Mars bar, sixpence or 2.5p. Now they're £1 and they're smaller. So, I mean, you know, work out the sums. Okay, I was obviously sad to leave, but those were circumstances. What did I do? I became what they call a consultant, and which always makes me chuckle, because I always used to say consultants are people who can't get proper jobs. And so, yeah, I was a person who couldn't get a proper job. But I was at a point in my life that this was an opportunity rather than anything else, because I'm not one to look behind, I want to look forward. And it was an opportunity that presented myself. Could I sell my services, and there is another word for that, but could I sell myself, or did always people want to talk to me because I had Hornby behind me? And luckily that I was able to work with the likes of the Science Museum, Locomotion, putting brands together. But not just that, I did some consultancy work for a company that sold forklift trucks. I did some work for a great company in Warminster who did laser cutting, etc. And I learned a lot from the variety of work. I also learned that when you work for yourself, you've got to put at least a couple of days aside for paperwork and all the rest of it. I found it very rewarding, very interesting. To answer your question, I knew Lyndon Davies of Oxford Diecast. I'd known him for years because he'd been producing scale autos. He discovered I was no longer at Hornby. We had conversations, we used to meet, we used to have chat. And then when he was offered the CEO position at Hornby, he asked if I'd like to come back. And I think it took me about a nanosecond to say yes. So yeah, no, I came back. You got to remember, I never really left Hornby. My heart was always here. Well, that is a question I have asked myself, and I've come up with an answer which really isn't just one thing. It's quite a lot of things, really. It appeals to so many different desires of people. Now, how can I put it? It's multifaceted is probably the right word. So you'll have people who just want to watch trains go by, quite happy. I think people who've seen the James May programs, etc., with Toy Story, etc., he likes to have the track, not worried about scenery, just likes to see them go around. You have people who love to just have a moment in time. So it's probably a small area like that, maybe a little station there. It's always summer, and they'll have the detail of this specific piece of layout down historically wise to the minute, and run a timetable. But it's like a 3D picture they will create. You'll have those who are interested in the logistics of things, moving things around, etc., and they love that. You'll have those people who just want to, as I've said, create this moment in time, just a picture, just a layout, and maybe the track is just secondary to that. So you'll have people who, I want to do the electrics, and I love all that. You'll have people who hate the electrics and they love the digital, or they'll have a very simple layout. It's really, what do you want it to be? But I can tell you what it does do. It teaches you, and you don't really know you're learning, but it teaches you social history. It does teach you logistics. It teaches you architecture. It teaches you about how railways were created, because all you're doing is miniaturizing that. So do you have a tunnel, or do you do a cutting, on your layout and things like that? It teaches you basics, electrics, teaches you physics, etc. It teaches you basic woodwork. I know some people who, never knocked a nail in a piece of wood before, but, they face, I've got a board, I need to strengthen it, and off they go. And you're learning so many things all of the time. That's why I've said for ages, model railways should be part of the national curriculum, because it does, it just literally gives you so much. So I think it's all that together appeals to so many people of so many different ages and demographic, You know, there's no specific demographic. They can be from all over the whole kaleidoscope of people. Just enjoy what they get out of model railways. That was a long answer, but you know, it's how I feel, and I've thought about it a lot. You know, because I worry that, you know, there are some products you see that were great in my time, but have become old-fashioned products. And Hornby and railways, model railways, has stood the test of time. No idea. Always potential for all sorts. And for the previous question, I don't want to be dismissive. I mean, it's a lovely direct question, but I'm sure you'll understand why I can't answer. But thank you. No, well, I've never, and this is an awful. I mean, I love, you know, model railways. I love looking at what people can create, whether, you know, they've been doing it for just a few, you know, weeks, or they've been doing it for a lifetime. I like to see what people can achieve, and I love the detail, etc. I also love when exhibitions seeing a layout that entertains, you know, and gets the youngsters interested in it. For me, I've not done any modelling, proper modelling, for a good number of years, because it's there's two reasons for that. One has been a question of time. Hornby does take up quite a lot of my time, and if I'm not doing this, then believe it or not, I do have a family, and you know, and my wife does like to see me occasionally, and she does have a list that I have to work through, and I'm more than happy to do it because I enjoy working with my hands and DIY. However, the interesting thing is, and I'm not sure whether it's an age thing, but it's a bit strange this, but while I was building some seed boxes for my wife, I built one, and I thought, you know what, I could put a model railway in here. And my mind has been moving towards just a simple, as I was saying, probably a moment in time, or just a very simple little layout, just to just as a bit of enjoyment. And it's probably something that I will do maybe in the winter, or the late autumn winter, and start working on it. But no, it seems to be getting me. The problem you can have if you get too involved in you've become too much of an enthusiast. And I always say I'm enthusiastic for the hobby, not so much of an enthusiast. It can colour your judgment if you're not careful. So you know, I keep it to a reasonably arm's length. But you know, you know, now we've got some lovely scenics and etc. I just fancy, having a go. As I say, I haven't done it for many years, but it's a great hobby. Yeah. I'm not sure I'm that confident, but and it's great. It's a great hobby. It's a great pastime, and that's really what it is. It's a fabulous pastime, and we need to get more people involved. I'd just like to say to everybody, retailers, enthusiasts, casual enthusiasts, really thanks for your support. I know there's a lot of retailers who've been supporting Hornby for a good number of years, through good times, through bad times. And I'm always very grateful. I never forget who pays my wages. And yeah, thanks very much. And for those people who are saying, not him again, I do sympathise, and I promise you probably won't see anything like this again this year. And just to reiterate, there are other people at Hornby, and they all work incredibly hard, and they're all passionate about the business and the hobby and the people involved. So thank you. Thanks for listening, and thank you for supporting us for 100 years, and here's to the next 100 years.
Last week we announced our special Terrier competition. We wanted your help to get us to 25,000 subscribers on YouTube, and boy did you help. We hit our 25,000 subscriber milestone and are continuing to rise. Thank you all, and welcome to all our new followers, and thank you to all those who have been with us through the years. We are pleased to announce that our two winners are... Congratulations to you both. We will be in direct contact with you soon for all your details, and a limited edition Centenary Terrier will be winging its way to you very soon. We were so impressed with how you all got involved and smashed the 25,000 goal, so we wanted to go even bigger. We are 100 this year, so we thought, why don't we try and hit 100,000 subscribers? A huge milestone, you'll agree, and a difficult one, but to help us get there, for each milestone we achieve, we'll be giving away a very special prize. Over the coming weeks, we'll be announcing the prizes, so keep your eyes peeled across all our social media, and don't forget to subscribe so you're in with a chance of winning.
I'm Lyndon Davies, and I've been the Chief Executive of Hornby for the last few years. As many of you know, it's the 100th anniversary since Frank Hornby announced the first clockwork tinplate locomotive. I'm sure he would never have forecasted how popular his products would become. The last 3 to 6 months have been challenging with this terrible global pandemic. It is all of you, our wonderful devoted customers, the Hornby community, the Hornby family, that has helped us as a company to get through. The exciting news is that our development plans are more advanced than ever. The foundations are now laid out for the next 100 years, and with your wonderful support and fantastic loyalty, Hornby products will be enjoyed for generations to come. So this is just a big thank you to all of you for your fantastic support.
Another popular Centenary model has been the iconic Duchess of Atholl. I was lucky enough to grab a sample to give you a closer look. Although there had been some development at the Meccano factory after the end of hostilities in 1945, it was not until 1948 that the Meccano factory resumed full production. 1948 saw business as usual, with models designed prior to the Second World War starting to appear. The Hornby Dublo Duchess was first designed in January 1939, but it was not until spring 1948 that the Duchess of Atholl appeared in LMS maroon. The locomotive was fitted with a metal body, while the tender top was produced in moulded plastic. The launch of the Duchess of Atholl in 1948 was a major milestone for Hornby Dublo, and it is therefore appropriate in this Hornby's centennial year that the same named locomotive be made available once again with a metal locomotive body and a moulded tender top. This limited edition Hornby Dublo Duchess of Atholl has been specifically produced as part of the Hornby Centenary Collection and celebrates the 1940s decade by not only reproducing a metal body locomotive for the first time in many years, but by also using artwork inspired by the Hornby Dublo packaging style of that period. Included with this limited edition model is a numbered certificate confirming that the model is just one of 500. I've said it before, but I'll say it again. We could not have made it to 100 years without you at home. This company is built on the people that work here and the fans who pour their hearts into the hobby. You've been sharing your amazing images on social media, and we always love seeing you running your locos and displaying them proudly. Here are just some of our favourites from the past month. Be sure to tag yourself if you spot one of your images. Well, that's all we've got time for in this bumper episode of Signal Box. Thank you as always for watching. Coming up this month, we've got a new episode of Hornby Memories, and Jenny Kirk will be building us a scenic layout specifically for our birthday, just to round off our birthday month. As always, don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss out on the Hornby content. And of course, you want to be in it to win it with our subscriber competitions. Well, until next time, I'm Mike, you've been great, and I'll see you at the next stop.